Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to 10-Minute Wellbeing Tips for Managers. Good to see you. I was out last week. I feel refreshed and I am ready to go. So this week, we are going to talk about celebration. Even just saying the word celebration makes me feel good. Celebration is part of several of our well-being building blocks, but in particular, we have a role as leaders in helping to celebrate. And certainly celebration improves the morale of our teams. When we think of celebration, we may instantly think of these big parties and balloons and confetti, but that's not likely to be happening inside our walls. I don't know about you, but I haven't seen confetti fall from the ceiling at Johns Hopkins Medicine in a while. It's more likely that we see something like this. Celebration is more often between two people where one is telling the other, hey, you did a good job, congratulations. This is much closer to the type of celebrations that we as team leaders can initiate and deliver. This image on this screen also represents another common theme, and that is that we often celebrate work. Great job says it all. And I invite you to consider or open yourself up to the possibility that we can celebrate well-being. We can celebrate the well-being of each other, and we can do this respectfully and effectively, and that it can become one of our roles as a leader. Now, we might think, oh, we're going to celebrate well-being, so we're going to say congratulations to a marathon winner. Well, we are really going to eliminate 99% of our colleagues if we limit our idea of celebration to people who are finishing races. We really want to expand how we view the word winner. In my book, anyone who is moving their well-being path forward is a winner. And anybody who's having a tough day and they're not able to move their well-being forward that day will be a winner tomorrow, or maybe 2 days from now, or next week. We all, I shouldn't say we all, a lot of us are having our own private accomplishments that aren't about getting across a finish line. Now, of course, this is just an analogy. This isn't all about movement. There are all types of well-being. Well-being comes in all shapes and sizes, and everyone's engaged, or at least 93% of adult Americans, as of a survey in 2021, are engaged in a health and or well-being goal. So pretty much everybody on your team has some type of health or wellness goal. And it's our job to try and figure out what it is. We want to do this respectfully. We want to make sure we're not being intrusive or overbearing. We'll come back to privacy in a few slides. Now, you probably guessed this is a hockey team. This, in fact, is the 1980 US Olympic hockey team. And back in 1980, the rules in the Olympics were that you couldn't participate if you were a professional athlete, in this case, a professional hockey player. Now, 2 weeks ago, I did an episode on fairness and in the workplace. Well, at that time, a lot of people felt like it wasn't fair. Remember, this is their job. So they thought it wasn't fair that some countries had what were considered professionals, but they weren't viewed like that by the Olympics because they weren't the traditional getting a paycheck. Whereas our athletes, they were from college. We couldn't recruit people from the NHL. So in 1980, Herb Brooks was given the honor of coaching the US Olympics hockey team. He had to recruit college players. And when he got them all together to break the ice, yes, pun intended, he asked them to introduce themselves, and he asked, who do you play hockey for? And the first student said his college name. And Herb just kind of brushed his hand and moved to the second one. Who do you play hockey for? And the second student says his university name, knowing that he didn't understand what the problem was. Herb Brooks said no. And he goes to the third student, and the third student answers, I play for the United States. And that was the right answer. Well, in 1980, the US hockey team overcame the odds and beat the Russians. I don't know how many of you remember the Miracle on Ice, but I was a kid, and that left a lasting impression. Team accomplishments can be celebrated. And I don't just mean accomplishments around no patient errors. I don't just mean accomplishments about finishing projects. I mean, we can celebrate team well-being. And it could be at the end of a STEPS challenge. It could be at the end or in progress for whatever your team decides. But when we celebrate team well-being, we increase our sense of community and vice versa. When we intentionally create that sense of community on our team, it's easier for everybody on that team to reach their well-being goals. So please look at this both as your opportunity as a leader to celebrate individual well-being on your team as well as team. Now, birthdays, a note on birthdays. Very common to celebrate birthdays. It's pretty common to have a cake. Not the healthiest food, but perhaps the joy of singing and blowing out the candles offsets the sugar, the butter, and the white flour. I'm not telling you to get rid of the birthday cake, believe me. But I am asking you to consider having a healthy option, because when we celebrate together, there's this camaraderie that we're trying to build or at least extend. And people want to feel like they're part of the celebration. And if someone on your team is choosing or doesn't want to have cake because of some health goal that they have or a condition that they're trying to avoid from getting worse, it's nice to give them another option where they can still feel involved. And birthdays don't have to be only about food. You could create a new tradition on how to celebrate birthdays by asking let's say the last birthday person to entertain or share their talents. It doesn't have to be singing. It could be telling a story, a joke, and juggling is always good for a few smiles. Now, a note on privacy. Well-being can be a sensitive issue for some people. And if we're lucky, we will have built trust between ourselves as the team leader and the people on our team. So there will be times that someone will confide in you on some accomplishment on their well-being that they have made. I'm going to give you an example. You probably have your own. Someone who is able to run a 1 mile race who 6 months ago could barely walk for 10 minutes. That's a big accomplishment for this person, but that doesn't mean that they want it announced to the whole team, because perhaps they know that there's someone on the team who runs half marathons and they might feel foolish if this is made something big of it. And in fact, I'm not telling you to have to get them to sign an affidavit, but you might just make sure you ask for permission. And this recently happened where an employee with an anxiety disorder specifically told his boss, please do not celebrate my birthday because it's going to increase my anxiety. Sure enough, he walks into a birthday celebration, has a panic attack, it runs out of the building. 2 days later, he is brought into HR and summarily dismissed for not, I forget the exact term, but basically you're not being a good sport. Well, he eventually wins a $450,000 birthday present from the court of law. I want to thank Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital for posting these pictures on their Facebook page. This is their way of celebrating holidays. Holidays can be celebrated very easily to do, and it makes people feel good. You won't notice any food in these pictures. We can celebrate without eating. Eating's fine. I don't have anything against eating. I eat almost every day, but keep it in mind, we can be creative. So my tips for you this week, I would suggest that you celebrate your birthday by taking the day off. If you don't already do this, consider that your birthday is special and that you should treat yourself by not having to, by doing whatever you want to do. Johns Hopkins Medicine gets you most days of the year. Give yourself a day. And for your team, figure out a way to make them comfortable to share what's happening in their health and well-being journey, that you might be able to either say the simplest thing like good job or celebrate it in a bigger form. Carolyn will be leading us next week. Don't forget our resources, and I'm over time.